join the conversation. So I've lived here cumulatively for about 5 or 6 years. I'm passionate about food, music, the arts, as well as farming and sustainability. So needless to say, I've got to know many of my Middlebury neighbors very well. And when we built our business, we sourced almost everything from local businesses from day one. So when I found myself back in Vermont in 2020, I was overjoyed to discover that I could follow my lifelong dream of legally growing cannabis, and doubly so that in the town where I went to college was one of the first towns in Vermont to show overwhelming support for the new craft-focused market. So I dropped everything, convinced my 2 best friends to do the same, and we put everything we had into building our dream business here in a place that would actually appreciate it. Since then, we've been working around the clock, and I do mean around the clock, to make our dream into a reality. So I come here to say that it is simply a fact that there is and there has been a flourishing cannabis culture in Middlebury for many years. My grandfather graduated from Middlebury College in 1959, and my mother did so in 1985, and cannabis has always been part of this story. Living here, that has also been my experience. Young people approach me daily looking for work and become ecstatic that they will finally have the opportunity to buy and proudly participate in a community that values top quality, organic, lab-tested cannabis sourced locally and ethically sold. My older neighbors, believe it or not, are also eager for work, including disabled veterans, and appreciate that cannabis will be sold in a place where IDs are checked so that they don't have to worry about their loved ones continuing to do back alley drug deals. I'm approached almost daily by older Middlebury residents as well, looking for a trusted source for low doses of cannabis flower, tinctures, edibles, and salves that will help them with sleep and other issues. In fact, of the thousands of conversations, and literally I do mean thousands of conversations that I've had over the years with Middlebury residents, I've never personally spoken to anyone who is anything but supportive of legal cannabis here. My partners and I were shocked at the statements made by some of the members of the Middlebury Selectboard in the article, and further in the meeting minutes that the article appears to be based off of. They will speak more to the legal, economic, and scientific misunderstandings that members of the group have demonstrated. I encourage everyone here to please take some time to read the laws legislators, regulators, and industry professionals such as ourselves have been working together on for years, as well as to review third-party studies about the cannabis industry nationally, which we will provide before attempting to regulate this industry. Of particular concern was Dan's quote, "I don't want to build an economy on cannabis sales. I don't think that's what Middlebury is." This sentiment is counter to everything that we've experienced in the Middlebury community, and more importantly, gives us the clear impression that our business is not wanted here. So I would like to ask the select board, and I am aware that this is a statement period and not a Q&A session, but I would like to ask the select board if we should take our plans to scale our business and open up a retail shop elsewhere. Or for clarity's sake, I'll ask, do you want us here? Because we certainly don't feel welcome at the moment. I'm aware, again, that this is a statement period, but I do hope that you kindly follow up. Thank you so much for your time.
I think I'm going to have a rebuttal. My comment wasn't reflecting on the cannabis industry at all, and your accusations, I think, are really misguided about the in your perception what was going on in our meeting. We were talking about zoning. We weren't talking about acceptance or non-support or any support. We are talking about it just like we talk about any business. I never reflected that I was opposed to this at any time during that meeting, nor do I think anybody else did. So I think your tone is all wrong. We do read, we do try to keep up with it, but we've got a lot of things going on. Cannabis is not a part of my life. It's not a part of my neighborhood. It's not a part of my friends or anything like that. But the voters have voted. It's going to be here, and I'm supportive of that. My only one thing is I've heard several people that if we put cannabis shops on Main Street, it's going to revitalize Main Street. It's going to explode. It's going to be fabulous. We're going to have all kinds of stores, and the economy is going to boom. I disagree with that. That's the only thing I do is I disagree with that. I didn't say anything else except just disagreeing with that. I don't believe that. And I also don't personally want an economy based on cannabis shops. I don't want to see 6 shops up in here, and the only thing that goes on in Middlebury is cannabis. I think you guys are doing a great job. I've read your articles in the paper. I'm impressed who you are. I'm impressed your background, what you're doing, how you're working, and what you're doing. So I think if your beef is with me, who you mentioned here, you don't have a beef. You really don't. You really don't have a beef.
I'd love to have a conversation with you.
I'd love to have that conversation too. You could have called me before this. You could call me anytime. I would talk about it.
You were in the paper.
I know I was in the paper, and I stand by what I said. And we're still.
I took issue with. Which I presented the quotation that I took issue with. I didn't respond to anything else that was in the article or the minutes, which there were quite a few things that I could have. But I tried to keep it pretty clear. You don't want cannabis in downtown for reasons that I can't, that you did not elaborate on, but I would love for you to, because there's no research that would show that cannabis would make downtown anything other than flourishing. In fact, we today have brought peer-reviewed studies that show the opposite, that counter to what
I'd love to see
without
that.
any proof
I'd love
in the
to-
paper. So that's all I'm here to do.
I think-
I'd
love to see them.
scientific empirical studies and say that we're
I
people
would
here
love
and
to
our
see
neighbors want us here. So I don't really
I think
appreciate
you're fine.
that. Thank you.
You're fine.
You
I
should
think-
call back.
Anytime, guys,
we should
call
have
me
a
anytime.
conversation outside of this meeting.
I don't think it's
So
appropriate.
it will be welcome. We'll be happy to have a conversation with you.
Thank you so much.
I've had conversations with several people about my comments, mostly in support. But I'd love to talk to you guys
Our card
anytime.
will be provided. I'll love to come buy you coffee.
I can buy.
Thanks.
Okay.
Have fun.
Thank you. And for clarification, we will be addressing cannabis separately. Do we have the meeting date set yet?
We do not. Your next hearing is August 9th on
Okay.
the zoning bylaws.
So there will be a separate meeting,
But
which
that's
you're all
been
welcome
pulled
to attend.
from the bylaws that we're considering.
And if you have written things that you'd like to give to Kathleen so that it gets entered in, you're welcome to do so. All right, let's take somebody from the online community there.
Hi, Ruth. You're on mute.
Are you referring to me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know if there was anybody else. I couldn't see. So I have a couple of things. They're both related to public works. One involves the drainage ditch in front of the houses on Seymour Street, which is just a bunch of really coarse riprap, and pretty much impossible to maintain as a property owner. And I know you've heard about this from some of my neighbors, and my neighbors have also told me, the ones who've been here a long time, that when that was installed, that drainage ditch, the town told the property owners that ditch was going to be covered with dirt and then seeded so that we could maintain it properly. I was not here at that time. That's what the neighbors told me who were here at the time when the work was done. They said that was actually, and if you look on the other side of the street where Danforth Pewter is, that's the way that drainage ditch is done. It's basically a swale, and then they're able to maintain it, by cutting the grass. We can't do that. The city or the town, I've called now each summer, when it gets really high. And then the secretary at the Public Works always tells me, "Oh, I didn't think we were doing that anymore." Each time I call, and so I don't know. We're all paying taxes, I mean, you're cutting stuff down in the public right of way and other places. I don't know why I get that response every time I call. I have to say, every time I call, a few days later somebody shows up and cuts it down. But I don't know why I have to call. Why isn't it just part of the regular maintenance? That's the first thing. And the second thing is, there is the cobblestones that were installed on Main Street in front of the Duclos building. I actually almost fell off of them one day, because if you get out of your car and you walk and you go onto the cobblestones, you don't intuitively know that there's going to be a drop off on the other side. And I know that you put the railing in over by the park, the new park. I guess it's the Lazarus Park. You put a railing in, but I thought you were going to put some sort of a railing to prevent people from falling off of that. it's basically a bump. And if you get out of your car in a certain way and you're looking at the door that you're going to be going into the bank, you don't know that you're dropping down, and then I actually fell. So I just thought I'd that to you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm
Is this-
familiar
Yes.
with the location in front of the National Bank of Middlebury, and I will relay this to Public Works. Both items.
Okay. Okay, so those are my two, I guess with the first thing, I would love it if the town finished that off, but if short of that, if you don't decide to finish it, if you could just maintain it more regularly without my having to call every year and then getting a hard time from the office would be nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's, okay, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ruth.
All right, let's take somebody else from our audience. Laura or Ross, either one of you.
Good evening. I have two items for you today. First, when Manna found out I was going to be coming, they wanted me to check in just to see if you had any questions about the letter. It sounds like, unless you have questions before the meeting, sounds like it's going to be next month. I guess don't have to talk about that. Would you agree?
No, I didn't have questions.
Yeah,
I
questions.
appreciate that you wrote it. I appreciated getting the letter because it was definitely a different take
Yeah.
on where I thought things stood. So I appreciate that.
And I'll let them know that we're planning a meeting next month.
Mhm.
Yep.
The other,
Sorry, just quickly, I would say I do have some questions.
Oh,
Just think like, is Manna gonna put together more information on what they have an issue with in the current master plan
yes.
and provide that
I do
before we
believe that's
need that?
something they're working on.
Okay,
And if we can get an idea of when the date is, we'll have a deadline and we know what to work towards. So if you
Okay.
have, in terms of when you want to discuss this in your agenda.
okay.
yeah, I would shoot for August 9th, it sounds like.
And certainly it's great if we can read it a couple days before then.
Well, yeah, it should be the Friday before to get in the packet, so we have it, yeah.
There was a bunch of questions presented at the public meeting. We haven't gotten responses to that yet, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has. I
Okay,
think
so we still
V-Trans is
have that
working on
out there. Yeah.
Okay, the other item has to do with the Vermont Gas Easement we discussed maybe a month ago.
Mhm.
As you know, I was very disappointed that the select board doesn't have a policy in place to verify if someone wants to put in new fossil fuel infrastructure, that's really needed and is not a good, maybe renewable alternative or something that might do just as good a job. The other thing that troubles me greatly is that the select board provides the use of town property through the right-of-way and easements at no charge. If Vermont Gas was going to go through a private property, they would pay for the right-of-way, but the town doesn't receive any money. Whereas if you did, that money could potentially be used to help the town pay for some of the fossil fuel reduction efforts that's ongoing. I think it's actually only fair, actually, that companies that produce pollution should be required to help pay for the cost of cleaning up and dealing with the pollution they produce. And so, I can't tell you guys what to do, and I have no control over you, but I do have control over myself. And so I'm here to let you know that I'm making a commitment to the residents of Middlebury, and that in the future, starting with this easement, anytime the select board approves an easement without negotiating some compensation for the land use and without checking to make sure that that gas is really needed and the best solution for what the landowner wants to do, I am going to circulate a petition so it goes on the ballot, and we'll let the voters weigh in and decide whether they want to approve that easement agreement or not. And I basically wanted to come and tell you that in person as a courtesy so that you don't learn about this by reading about it in the paper.
Kathleen, a question. I know that the town gets property tax for telephone poles, for instance, and other things like that. Is there any capital connected to the gas infrastructure on town land?
I'll have to check on
I think there might be some taxes they pay because they've got business property that they're profiting from.
Sure, yeah, but like the telephone poles, right, that are in the town right of way, right? There is a property value and tax associated with the use of the utilities
Yeah.
for that
Of
property.
course, those are right-of-ways that previously exist, that all utilities typically get to use.
Sure.
What Vermont Gas is asking for in these instances is a new right-of-way, a new encumbrance on new property that isn't previously encumbered.
Understood.
And the other problem is that, the current utilities that typically use the roads, the electric, the phone, they're not causing the climate degeneration as much as the fossil fuel industry is, of which Vermont Gas is. And so it's a different, fish, if you will.
I think that you've said a lot of really great things. I'm just not sure we have the authority to impact any of those things you said. I don't think as a select board, we have any authority on that. I mean, we
Well-
just can't say, just out of a general practice, say no.
No, I didn't say, I don't believe I ever said that. I said you should confirm that gas is the best fuel to use for the purpose they want, and that might be a good idea to negotiate some reimbursement for the use of the land. I didn't say no. See,
Land, but if somebody wants to put a new oil burner in their house, we don't have any authority to stop anybody doing that, or new gas.
But he's talking about public property.
I'm talking about, I understand the easement issue, and we can, but we can't deny a resident to
He's not
do.
saying that. He's
Okay.
saying Vermont Gas should be paying us
I
something.
got that part.
Yeah, that's it.
And the only
But
thing you'd be
he-
denying is the easement to Vermont Gas
Gotcha.
to use the right of way. You're not even talking to the owner of the property.
Gotcha.
You're dealing with.
Well, the
Vermont
last
Gas.
time it was the last time you were here, you wanted somebody to talk to the owner about convincing them to do it something different.
To find out, if they considered other options that would be less, say, environmentally impactful, such as renewable energy options. There's electricity, and there's a
Right.
lot of options out there.
Oh, yeah, no, understand.
The town is pretty well divided in terms of people who are pro Vermont Gas and people who are against it. And it's interesting because over the years, refrain I've heard from select board members pretty consistently is they have to consider all residents in the community. You represent everyone. But unfortunately, in the case of Vermont Gas, your support and representation has been one-sided. The people who are against it have gotten really nothing from the select board. Vermont Gas has gotten pretty much everything they've wanted, every easement they've wanted. You've accommodated them all 100%. And so a real way of representing everyone would be to find a compromise, such as what I'm suggesting, which is to confirm that if they want to get gas, it's the best option. Then when you can approve it, just ask for a little money. That's a compromise where no one gets everything they want, but everyone gets something. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ross. Do we have somebody else in the online?
Judy, your video is off and your microphone is off. Judy? Okay, maybe we'll go to someone in the room. Judy, while.
Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yep, coming on. Keep some, yikes.
Whenever you're ready, Judy.
We can hear you loud and clear. Yeah,
Am I here?
yeah, you're here.
No, you're there.
Oh, jeez. This is so complicated. So I have three things. One, I would like to thank Dan for delivering a,
Earbuds.
earbuds to me. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Sorry.
You're welcome.
I
Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. Second, the highlight of my day was hearing that Kathleen and Brian, and I'm hoping that the rest of the select board is looking for a candidate to replace Dan Werner that has knowledge and expertise about green infrastructure. Geez and Crow, Kathleen, if I could come and hug you, I would.
Please.
I am so freaking excited. You have no idea. You have no idea. And I thank you so much. And lastly, to echo some things that Ross said, I think the select board does in fact have the wherewithal to make decisions in terms of where we get our energy from. And it absolutely needs to be, yes, not natural gas, not fossil fuels. It needs to be anything but. And I think that's all, but at the same time, I thank you again for the headset. Thank you. And thank you, Kathleen, for the, geez, you've made my day. Thank you so much.
Judy, you can
Have a good night, everybody.
Judy, you can plug both ears in if you want to, so you can put those in both ears. So.
Yes, I understand that, but they kind of hurt my ears, so I'm only doing one at a time.
Okay. Alternate them.
You can send some eardrops.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
And then someone else from the audience here. Okay.
Nope.
I would just ask you to bear in mind that we're 20 minutes over at this point. Make sure what you're saying is something
Concise.
different and concise. Thank you so much.
Hi, Select Board. So my name is Ronald Williams, and I'm a co-owner of a local cannabis cultivation business. As far as I know, one of Middlebury's first and only majority Black-owned cannabis businesses. So back in December 2020, I was approached by my lifelong friends, Max and Zach, to start this business of our dreams. Of course, the three of us were feeling overworked and unfulfilled. But in particular, we were feeling a collective desire to be a part of something unique and meaningful. I was personally searching for a community of caring and driven people whereby I could thrive as an individual and feel comfortable pursuing my passion for cannabis. After moving here in July 2021, I can say that I actually feel that I've found this community here and I felt incredibly welcomed by all of my neighbors, both immediate and throughout Middlebury. Despite coming from a slightly more diverse background, we'll say, and moving from a major city to a tight-knit Vermont town, I've never felt more part of a unique local community in my entire life. The recent published statements on behalf of certain select board members on what Middlebury traditionally is are confusing to me in light of my own personal experience with my neighbors. When I think of Middlebury, what comes to mind is a community of people who have a unique commitment to one another, an exemplary community within the state of Vermont, where neighbors support each other's passions, business pursuits, intellectual curiosity, and overall pursuit of happiness. With the addition of an Amtrak station, Middlebury has an even greater opportunity to really showcase these beautiful elements of our town, while simultaneously bringing tourists here to enjoy all of our craft industry. If this is not what Middlebury is, then perhaps the residents of this town deserve some clarity on what Mr. Brown and Mr. Carpenter's views me and what the town really stands for. Obviously not in this moment, but I wanted to say that. And as a full-time Middlebury resident, I find the notably vague language and views surrounding these statements to be both disheartening and antithetical to how my neighbors and I support one another. As a Middlebury-based small business owner, a temporary moratorium on cannabis retail shops, which would create a monopoly, I just want to note, feels misaligned with the town's small business and general craft culture. As a Middlebury taxpayer, the idea to exclude cannabis retail stores from the downtown area brings me great concern for the legal and economic ramifications of a decision that might be rooted in misinformation. So I ask the select board to consider these elements when making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
now I know why you're called Mr. Z's. I figured it out. Very cool.
Is there any way you can share your email with Kathleen? So,
Yeah.
okay,
Thank
then we can.
Laura?
Good night, friends. I appreciate the extra time you're giving for citizen comments tonight. As a former select board member, I think that is sometimes the most valuable part of a meeting. And so thank you for giving the space for that. I appreciate that. And I'm here to speak to two issues. One is on behalf of Bike Ped concern, and then the other is about public access to bathrooms. So I'll speak to the latter first. So as you know, I was on a task force to address the needs of those experiencing homelessness. And we created this pink brochure, the Gotta Go card, that tells you where you can go to a public bathroom. And that includes the offices here. And I'm not clear what message we want to say in the revision of the card about access to the building here. Are we now, so I'm going to be looking for your feedback and others, in updating this brochure. So I think it's important to provide as much access as possible to the town office bathrooms because they are so good. And I know formally it was limited on Fridays, and I just want to clarify if the bathrooms are available on Fridays now. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. And is the time span from 8:30 to 4:30 or 5:30? What should I?
8:30 to 4:30.
8:30 to 4:30. Okay. So that's one thing. And just again, to make you aware of that and what an important resource this is for our community, not just for those experiencing homelessness, but also visitors to our town. So I appreciate the portalets that are about town too. And this pink brochure helps our merchants on Main Street inform visitors to where they can go, especially after hours. And I'm glad for the addition of the portalet on Mill Street that we now have that's not currently on this brochure that I'll add. So that's good. And I'm always paying attention to where other portalets might be needed. I don't think that they are, but I appreciate the efficiency of the portalets we now have, and thank you for that. So I just wanted to clarify our messaging about access to public bathrooms and let you know how important that is to our community. So that's that. And then with regard to Mid-Bike Ped, you know that we're about to undergo a planning of Middlebury's Bike Ped offerings. And so I hope that you'll be engaged in that as that unrolls this fall, and that I had permission from Kathleen to revise the bulletin board outside for messaging about our transportation options. And I'm really excited about Middlebury's offerings. And it was referred to already. We're going to be celebrating the Amtrak arrival this Friday. Very exciting. We have new bike racks throughout town, and that's great. And we can add more, and I'll be working on that too. And of course, I want you to be thinking about the full spectrum of mobility options we're going to have between e-bikes and e-cars, because there's a lot more in between, and we're going to have to be looking at our ordinance again, our bike ped ordinance, and updating it for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, because it's a whole game changer now, e-bikes and all the other possibilities that are coming on, including cargo bikes, electric assist cargo bikes. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about that. And related to that, shoulders mean everything, you know. So the maintenance of shoulders are really important. And I can't emphasize enough how important street sweeping is. And just paying attention to the potholes and shoulders. And this is particularly true for me on Washington Street Extension, which is my corridor. I come past the animal hospital and it's a wreck there. And I'm patient about it because I know of all the construction that's now happening. But I have to come right into the middle of the road to divert that. It's that bad. I can't really roll over that. I could go on the sidewalk, and sometimes I do, but we're trying to encourage people not to use the sidewalk for biking. So I'm just emphasizing that again. Street sweeping, very important. The shoulder maintenance is really important. I don't know if there's a little bit of pothole filling, that could happen while we're waiting for the main repaving again. But Washington Street Extension in front of Middlebury Animal Hospital in that zone is really, really bad. So as an example. So that's all I'll say for now. And I'll look forward to coming back to you as we undergo more bike ped planning.
Laura, can I ask you a quick question? Also on Washington Street Extension. We're talking about electric scooters in town, and I have had 3 times on the sidewalk there interactions with someone on a very fast electric scooter. Where should electric scooters be ridden?
The ordinance now says that they're like a bicycle, so they can operate like a bicycle. And right now, what we say about bicycles is that they can be on the sidewalk. They should always yield to the pedestrian. The only place that bicycles are restricted are Main Street and Merchants Row during business hours. So at night, you could be on Main Street and Merchants Row if you feel that's safer for you in terms of navigating.
What scooter are you talking
An electric scooter.
An electric scooter. Well,
Some of them are
Is it a
pretty fast.
licensed scooter or is it an
Definitely not.
electric bike?
Definitely not.
Oh.
It's as though we're a kick scooter, but with a battery and a motor.
and that's what I'm talking about. We have e-bikes, we have e-cars, and then we have e-scooters in between that, and we have a lot of other devices. There are electric assisted hoverboards, and
Yeah, and one
so-
wheels and all kinds of crazy
all
things.
kinds of things.
There is a state ordinance around sidewalks that says that motorized vehicles with a maximum speed over 8 miles an hour should not be on them except as assistance devices.
That's why I think we need another look at our ordinance, Andy,
Yeah.
and clarify some of that. So
Having almost been
Chief
run off the
Haley's over
road,
there.
I agree.
and he's waving to
Off the
me, and
sidewalk, rather.
he's a good ally in that. So we'll try to get that on an agenda of a public health and
Great.
safety committee meeting and get to that important work, because we do want to keep everybody safe. Everybody is speeding. Everybody, including pedestrians that are cutting across as fast as they can and not making eye contact. We are all needing to slow down for a safer town. That's my motto. And that includes Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
Is the Mill Street porta potty vertical now and staying vertical?
I believe it is vertical today.
What?
Oh, dear.
There's been vandals pushing it over, or at least pushed it over once.
I did not know that.
So I was going to mention, it's a pilot
So-
project.
That's an old college trick. You usually do it when somebody's in it, but unpleasant.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And I don't know if a wider one like we have behind the library
I don't know if they can be staked down, but
would make
probably
a
not
difference,
worth
or
that.
swapping. I don't know if swapping them out would make a difference, although it's nice to have the one at the library. That is the most used portalet, the one that's behind the library, I think. But it is good to have the one down at Mill Street for lots of other reasons. So I don't know what to say about that, except I hope they stop. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the extra time tonight.
All right, Kathleen, do we have anyone else online with their hand up?
No one else online has their hand up.
And anyone else from the audience? Come on up. Hello. Be sure to state your name.
Hello, my name is Colette Pinello. I moved to Vermont from Colorado 3 years ago now. Wow. So, having worked for a recreational dispensary in Colorado, I've seen firsthand the boost they can bring to a local economy. My dispensary was located smack dab between Vail and Avon. You may know Vail as a popular ski destination frequented by millionaires. You may not know Avon, home of Beaver Creek Ski Resort, where the billionaires ski. These high-end clients were the majority of our customers and frequently told us that we were their first stop after the airport. They would then ask for suggestions for the best places in the area to eat, drink, or shop. I was able to send customers to the surrounding restaurants, breweries, and stores that they would not have known about otherwise. Additionally, I would like to mention that there were 4 recreational dispensaries located on that road along a 100-yard stretch. Having more than one option to shop for allowed for a full representation of the state. Each shop carried multiple vendors, all different from one another. This allowed for a competitive market and for more opportunities for these vendors. Finally, I was a badged employee of the state working for the Marijuana Enforcement Division. The way that I and all of my colleagues upheld the regulations being enforced was second to none. Everything was recorded, inventoried, and logged every day. If you didn't follow the regulations, the MED would take away your badge, you would lose your job and your livelihood. We took our jobs incredibly seriously. I'm here to tell you I took away more fake IDs and ruined more underage kids' vacations than any of the bartenders in that town. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on?
I think the cat's out of the bag. I want to talk about, right?
I just hope you don't mention my name again, okay?
You're famous.
I am.
So,
And I read all those books too, so.
good evening, members of the board. I'm Zachary Tyson, the Z of Mississippi. My background is in cannabis law. I currently sit on the Minority Cannabis Business Association's Policy Committee, and I'm a stakeholder in the Vermont cannabis industry. I'm here to comment on the recent news around the Planning Commission and Select Board's attempt to limit cannabis retail establishments in downtown Middlebury. First, Mr. Brown of the Select Board stated in John Flowers' article and in the meeting minutes that he has not seen any data regarding the benefits of cannabis retail establishments. I have with me multiple studies showing that cannabis retail establishments lead to an increase in property value, reduction in teen use, and no effect on crime rate, and in some states, even a reduction in crime. For example, here's a quote from Clever Real Estate Data Science, 2021 study, How Legalizing Recreational Marijuana Impacts Homes Values, published July 12, 2021. And I quote, "We found that cities with more dispensaries are positively correlated with higher home values, suggesting legalization boosts jobs and economic growth. With each new dispensary a city adds, property values increase by $519. As more states legalize marijuana, there is strong evidence that legalization drives higher property values, particularly in areas that allow recreational marijuana and welcome retail dispensaries. These investments can improve quality of life in communities across the nation while attracting tourism and new residents who drive real estate demand." Additionally, I would like to bring to the Select Board's attention the following information. According to the West Central Vermont Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Report, released in June of this year, the labor force participation rate in Vermont is at 60.9%, its lowest point in over 40 years. In addition, total employment in the retail sector remains down 6% since the pandemic. We personally know many people looking for retail jobs that we would love to give them should the town be supportive of additional retail shops. The town of Middlebury should be providing pathways to increase employment opportunities and not arbitrarily preventing and/or limiting them. Finally, I would like to remind the Select Board and the Planning Commission that Middlebury opted in to hosting cannabis retail establishments, and Vermont law states in 7 VSA Statute 863, subsection D, points 1 through 3, a municipality shall not, 1, prohibit the operation of a cannabis establishment within the municipality through an ordinance adopted pursuant to 24 VSA Statute 2291, which is the enumeration of powers for a town, city, or incorporated village, or a bylaw adopted to 24 VSA Statute 4414, which deals with zoning. Point 2, condition the operation of a cannabis establishment or the issuance or renewal of a municipal permit to operate a cannabis establishment on any basis other than the conditions in subsection B of this section, which deals with local cannabis control commissions. And point 3, exceed the authority granted to it by law to regulate a cannabis establishment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you read the article about these guys in the paper about their educational backgrounds, they're not ones to be debating with. I can tell you that.
We'd love to get a coffee.
What's that?
We'd love to get a coffee though, for real.
Sure. Absolutely.
Can you let the folks
Can you
in behind you, please? Thanks.
45 minutes for public comments.
All right, before we move on, last call for public comments. Anyone else? Alrighty.
Anybody else want to beat me up?
Thanks so much.
In that case, we will move on to item 5, the Energy
We
Committee's.
have Daniel,
Okay.
who has raised his hand. Come on, Daniel.
Take care.
Hey, guys. This thing. I'll do that.
Hi, Daniel.
Hey, y'all.
You cut out for a second.
There you are, nice and strong now. Go ahead.
Perfect. Hey, y'all. I'm Dan Gutierrez. I am the owner of Butts Beans and Illuminar Coffee in town. And I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments shared so far in the public comments about the concerns of essentially creating a monopoly on dispensaries in town. I mean, again, I know we're over time, so I just want to keep it short and sweet, but imagine if there was only one place to get coffee in town. That wouldn't be very good. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it short.
Okay. So now we will move on to item 5, which is the Energy Committee's request to allocate $1,500 for a comprehensive climate action plan. Who's up?
Yeah. I think you're part of this as well. I think everyone knows me, right? I'm John Mercer. Good to see you. So I assume you saw the letter in the packet. So we just did a little bit of background. We've made several attempts to develop what at the time we were calling an energy plan, whether or not it was an enhanced energy plan or a comprehensive energy plan. It didn't really go very far. And a lot of it has to do with there are multiple entities involved with developing it. So we have the college, and John acts as a liaison between the Energy Committee and the. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So John acts as a liaison between the Energy Committee and the college. We also want to involve businesses. So there are a number of players in developing this plan because it's for the towns, for the residents, it's for everyone, right? The idea of let's have a comprehensive plan that everyone is a part of. So there wasn't a lot of we as I said, we made several attempts. We were not making progress. John had suggested an independent third party to help develop the plan. Pale Blue Dot did an exceptional job working with SEAC. I don't know, everyone knows SEAC. It's in helping them develop the Addison County Climate Action Plan. And with that success, we thought John suggested, that's maybe a good opportunity for us to have them facilitate this, because I think that's what we're missing. We're missing some facilitation. And so I think, and one more note is that the college has offered to match whatever the Energy Committee is going to put into this. Now, the $1,500, we do have a $2,000 a year operating budget, which is really allocated for things like mailings, conferences, conference fees and things like that. And over the years, we've used very little of that. Yeah, so the committee took a vote on the 20th, I think that was, our last meeting last week. And we all thought that was a good use of the money, since we haven't really been making the most effective use of the money we have. So that's sort of the background. I don't know if John, if you'd like to add something.
Am I close enough to this? Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thanks, Howard. I would just add that my being liaison between the college and the Energy Committee and other committees in town is one of the aims of the college is to see if it can participate with the town collaborating on this kind of comprehensive climate plan. And I thought of going to Ted Redmond of Pale Blue Dot because he'd worked here and did some pro bono work in Middlebury for SEAC. So he knows the lay of the land. His firm writes climate action plans for municipalities, less frequently for counties. And I went to him just to test his interest, and he said, well, I believe that if you're working to collaborate between a town and a college, you need to try to set it up for success by having some early meetings with the right people at the college, the right people in the town, and then jointly to really test the expectations. It's very easy to say, let's collaborate. It's harder if you dive in without trying to define interests and how that collaboration might work. It might be a very close one. It might be support from the college to help the town do this in some way, research. So this is really a preliminary, let's set the table well, let's build a foundation to then potentially go forward in a collaborative effort. But if the town's plan, assuming we decide, after this early work, and it could be adopted by reference in the town plan or otherwise. I've been collaborating closely with Jen Murray on this. She's very much aware of this work. And so I'm really pleased that the Energy Committee decided to allocate the funds toward this. And if you have any questions, fire away or be in touch afterwards. I know you are way behind, and I appreciate getting a chance to explain this.
And maybe if I could just add one more thing. Generally, the town plan does incorporate there's an energy plan component to that. And in the past, the Energy Committee did put together an energy plan that I believe is referenced as an addendum, whether or not it's binding, but it could use a lot more work that would be a lot more meaningful to the town and residents and everyone. So it is something that really we should be including in the town plan as it is. So, yeah.
I was thinking about what Ross said earlier about new construction and reducing the number of new fossil fuel connections. Is that something where the Energy Committee could advise planning so that there could be communication or liaison or information provided in the early stages of new?
Could I try that one?
Yeah.
I think the reason to try to get a comprehensive climate plan is to address those things. I would also say that this effort is not just the Energy Committee. It's the Energy Committee, the Planning Department. It's kind of like bigger.
Yeah.
And we're working with Jen, and I certainly think that could come up. I'd also offer, when I get home, to send you all the Hartford, Vermont climate plan. Dot help them with it. It gives you an idea of what can be. It's not, what can be included in a climate action plan for a municipality that's not terribly different in size.
Sure.
It's sort of comparable. Yeah, it could definitely influence the plan and even further down some regulations about what happens where. It should clarify the best places for solar arrays. It should clarify places that the Conservation Commission has been working hard on, places that should not be built out in solar arrays. So it could help answer a lot of questions and connect dots.
But that is a perfect example of what a climate, comprehensive climate plan can bring. It could make those kinds of things easier for the select board to be able to, rule on things. So, yeah.
I had a couple questions since I wasn't at our last meeting.
Yeah.
I'm assuming since it's in our packet that it's okay for the Energy Committee to use their operating budget in this way.
They're recommending.
The select board
support.
They're red. We're okay.
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 We're just
And
supporting.
then this is phase one, and I feel like I read something about all the phases and the total cost, and now I can't come up with the number, but
33.
right, okay, that's what I was remembering.
Oh, wasn't, I'm assuming it's an
Is
estimate.
the college going to continue meeting us halfway, or is this this is just phase one?
This is phase one. We'll see where it takes us.
Okay.
I hope it takes us to really, the collaboration could be that kind of mutual support, both research ability and monetary ability, but there's no commitment to that. We'll see where this gets us. I appreciate sort of if you have a willingness to just do this, see where it gets us. And yes, that figure came from Ted Revin as a estimate, having done these before for municipalities about the cities.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would also say, I would be willing to look for other funds.
Okay.
That's
Grants.
good.
I think
We
it's,
will take your
I think it's a thing that can get funded,
Yeah.
More funds.
jointly.
Okay.
What do we call it? Public-private?
Um,
All of the above.
Will this plan work with CX plan? I mean, are these meant to go together? They'll take
It wouldn't
it
contradict
into
each other.
consideration. And
Integration, yeah.
And then, is this plan meant to influence what we would then put in the town? Okay,
Yes.
just making sure
Yeah,
I
it could be
understand.
adopted by reference to the town plan,
Or pulling language
particularly
out.
if you wanted to get it going, if the timing, the next
Okay.
revision of the town plan might fit, I don't know. Yeah. Timing's-
Did anyone else have questions for John or Howard? No? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve a $1,500 allocation from Energy Committee's FY23 budget to engage Ted Redmond of Pale Blue Dot LLC for Phase 1 development of a comprehensive climate action plan.
Second.
Right, moved and seconded. All in favor, signify with an eye.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you.
Boom.
All right, next we have,
Thank you.
thank you both.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
We have nominations to position of elected treasurer. And should I read these 4 points out?
That'd be great.
Okay. On Monday, July 5th, 2022, Town Treasurer Jackie Sullivan asked Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to tender her resignation as Middlebury's elected Town Treasurer to the Middlebury Selectboard, effective upon appointment of a successor. In accordance with 24 VSA 127D, the board advertised for candidates interested in completing Jackie's term, which expires in March 2023. Beth Dow, assistant to the town manager, has submitted a letter of interest. As her letter notes, Beth has worked for several years with the town of Middlebury in many departments, including the town clerk and treasurer's office. Applications for the position of town treasurer are due Monday, July 25th, 2022. The select board will be updated at this time if there has been any additional interest. Formal appointment will take place at the board's August 9th meeting.
There have not been any other applicants.
All right. So at this point, we are just nominating Beth Dow.
Yeah, and you had some great questions and you answered all those. I had those questions too, but so since they've been addressed, and I'm surprised nobody else came forward though. And this is just until next year,
Until March 20.
till March. Okay, so
And
not even.
To be clear, this is the smaller part-time position.
Just the
It's
treasurer.
10 hours a week,
Very small time, part-time. We're
And-
thinking 5 to 10 hours.
5 to
maybe.
10 hours a week.
And
Okay.
she's gonna continue working for your office also?
Okay. She'll already be here, so.
So I'm going to eventually be a broken drum on these things, but have we looked at opportunities for regionalizing these kinds of things where maybe we obviously need separation of duty around finance. If you live in Vermont for very long, you know that elected treasurers have some difficulty with town funds. You want professionals in there, you want separation of duties, but also like how many full-time people do you need in a small town to do the books, and can it be shared with neighboring communities?
I have reached out to some of the larger towns in Madison County about that.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or comments about this? Esther, did you have anything? No, okay. With that, would somebody like to make a motion?
I move to nominate Beth Dow to complete Jackie Sullivan's term as town treasurer expiring in March of 2023.
Second?
Second.
Oh my God.
Moved and seconded. I feel like we have to give that
I
one
think
to
she got-
Esther because it was very
Because
enthusiastic.
the loudest one gets a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the first one.
All in favor, signify with an eye.
Aye.
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 All right, wonderful. Moving on to the 7:15 portion of our agenda.
I'm glad it was a short agenda otherwise.
Recommendation for replacement of dispatch console and.
The
oh,
chief
here we
is
have
here.
Chief
Good evening, Chief Hanley.
That's right. I thought it was going to need your help earlier, by the way. I don't know if you're here early, but I could have used, you didn't step up to help me.
I was ready to go.
Okay.
All right. I got to give you a quick background so you'll fully understand what's going on here. Our dispatch is open 7 in the morning to 11 at night, Monday through Saturday. In other words, we take our own calls, we dispatch our own calls. The rest of the time, the calls go to Westminster, where they're then routed back to this dispatch. Years ago, we started redundant dispatch system because in major events, we usually have 2 dispatchers working. So we have 2 consoles. So that system was put in 2012. We bought it with a grant at the time and it was installed. We learned last year after spending a lot of money repairing them that one of the consoles is down. It's irreparable. It's beyond the service age. The system is run on a Windows 7 architecture, which is not supported by anybody. It's pretty much kaput. We were spending a lot of money keeping the other one going. With that, last summer we got a proposal to replace the entire system for $183,000, which I sent that along to Kathleen with a note that that's a non-starter. That's not going anywhere. Last fall, I applied for a federal grant to begin replacing at least some of the components of this, with the anticipation of putting in another grant in January, which I did. We did get awarded a grant for $33,000. We got the award in February, so that money is there. The second part of the grant to finish the rest of the system, we were informed by members on the board unofficially that we would get the money. We created a bid, put a bid out, and the day the bids went out in the mail, I was told that we were not getting the money. So here we are. So we've come down to essentially 4 bidders bid on this project. One was a project to at least replace the computer software and some of the radio transmitters, which are, again, they're beyond their service life. If they break, we can't fix them. And that was the low bid, and that came in at $33,287. But that doesn't replace the consoles. That's a project that would have to be done at some point later. But at least the computer software would be upgraded and we'd be able to move.
Is there an issue with compatibility? Are we staying on an older generation of telecom equipment by doing this and locking ourselves?
No. Everything new now is networked, and it's all updated, all state-of-the-art stuff.
Okay.
Right now, it's the stuff we have is old. It's just, the planned obsolescence for this equipment when we put it in was 20 years, which is typical what this is. I'm not a radio tech. None of the officers are radio techs. We got to rely on people that service this stuff. And in no time were we told that this system was failing or was going to be obsolete soon. We found out when the system broke and didn't work anymore. So it's been about a year now. We have 2 bids, which are intriguing to me. One is the first one I told you about from Burlington Communications, where they upgrade the computers, put in new software, do the software package, and replace all our transmitters. That's the $33,000 bid. The other bid came from Bearcom, who's our current radio service provider. They proposed a lease package. Leasing Corporation of America is a lease company that does business with Motorola. So they provide the Motorola equipment and they do lease packages for municipalities. We had 2 bids on the lease package for this. The lease package from Bearcom in Plattsburgh, there were three ways you could go with this. I went with the 5-year one. It commits you to $23,730 a year for 5 years with an interest rate of 5.41%. Our grant would pay the first year and the down payment. The grant for $33,000 would just about cover that. But it would commit us to the following 4 years after that is to pay that $23,730 a year.
So Chief, back to this. You're talking about a 20-year lifespan and a 5-year lease. Does that mean that you have 15 years theoretically not paying for your equipment?
No.
Or is it theirs again at the end of the lease?
No, it's our equipment.
Okay.
It remains with us. Only now, we're a little smarter than we were before and realize we need to get software packages and annual software fees for upgrades, which we didn't have with this system.
Sure.
And it got so old that nobody will service it anymore. So this system conceivably could run a 20-year lifespan as long as we update periodically the computer hardware and the software.
Okay.
The other stuff is just buttons, essentially digital buttons. There's really not much to it. I don't know why it costs so much.
And are those upgrades are not included with this?
Those upgrades are included
They
in
are
this lease
included,
package. I verified that with him this afternoon because I was afraid he was leaving out installation costs, which are quite expensive to get this stuff programmed and set up.
But there would be a cost in years 6 through 20 for patches and maintenance on the
software, we subscribe to the software program. It's $2,000 something a year.
Okay.
And that
There
takes
you go.
care of the software patches, the upgrades and all that. Clearly, there'll be some mechanical issues, a wire will break.
Sure.
To pull up that stuff we deal with routinely anyway.
Okay.
And we get that.
Yeah.
Is that $2,000 a year locked, or do you anticipate it'll go up with the market?
It's whatever it is. That's the price for X amount of years.
Okay.
And of course, when you get to the end of that, you probably have to buy a new software package or software system.
Sure.
And go with that. So it's really the other choice we had was Central Vermont Communications of Rutland put in the same bid as Bearcom, only their lease proposal was much higher, 6.44%, much higher price per year for the 5 years. So we have a choice. We either go with Burlington Communications to do a sort of a Band-Aid repair, replace the transmitters and upgrade the software, but leave the stuff, the console equipment that's there, not replace that, with an opportunity to replace that at a cost of $30,000 or $40,000 in some other year.
If you do that, would that complete everything you need?
I'm just a little concerned because the state and everybody's going to digital architecture, and I don't know if this would bring us into the digital age. This proposal by Bearcom does. Everything's digital compliant, so it just stuff is in place. The radios are replaced. How the system works in the back room of the police station, there's a big cabinet, and inside there's transmitters. There's the fire department transmitter. There's one for public works. There's one for the police. There's another transmitter that covers our communication architecture with the schools and with Middlebury College. So that's all controlled from these transmitters that are in the back room. This also includes replacement of the fire department radio that we have to transmit or dispatch for the fire department.
Okay.
So that would be the choice I would give you, the Lease Corporation of America proposal from Bearcom at initial price of $11,287.23 plus $23,730.15. We've got the $33,000 grant that would pretty much cover that, or pretty close to covering that. And then be committed to this for an additional 4 years at $23,730.15 a year.
And what do we have in the budget to cover those years?
We have nothing.
Okay.
Budget. This is brand new. This would have to be added to our operating
This
budget.
will need to be added.
We do have
Okay.
an item in our budget to replace the repeater. That's a whole different program.
Okay.
That's up on the hill, up at Chipman Hill, the radio repeater.
Okay.
That's $24,000. It's in the capital improvement budget. And that too is gotten old. It needs to be replaced. But that's a planned replacement. And that's been in our capital budget for a number of years now. We're getting close to the year that we would actually spend that. This was a surprise last year.
Right,
We got blindsided by it.
Okay.
If we do the lease, we're going to replace everything that you need,
Everything goes. Everything.
but you're going to be all up to date and
Everything
good to
needs-
go.
Yeah, we're good, which is why this was kind of attractive. The lease from Central Vermont Communications was over $30,000 a year. It was quite a bit more expensive. When I saw these figures and I called in and asked, does this cover everything? This covers the installation costs, the programming? He said, yes, that's your entire program for that. It's just the way things are. Communications are expensive these days. We've got an old radio in the police station. It goes back to the 1960s. They still make tubes for it. It's a little box. It sits on the desk. And I don't think it works. It's not program for what we need, but
So you're leaning towards Bearcom leasing, is that what you're saying?
That's what he's proposing. Yeah, Bearcom leasing is the one that just scraps the entire system and replaces it with something new. Burlington Communications does part of it, but that still leaves us responsible to replace the rest of these and find some funding source for that.
Is there any digital versus analog interoperability issues with the state systems? Do you need to be on a compatible system?
Yeah, we should be
in the visible future.
It's called Project 25 compliant, where you can't spend grant money on something that isn't Project 25 compliant. That's a requirement of the grant. They want everybody to move to digital. Yeah, everything's in widgets and things now. It just not like the old days when you had switches and plugs to deal with.
So you have 33,000 worth of grant money.
We have
you
a
got.
grant, yes.
Are there any other opportunities coming up to apply for grants?
If we did Burlington Communications, I would apply for a grant again in January when the next grant comes out.
Nothing for the Bearcom?
Because the contract will be closed.
Right, right.
So Chief, could you go over those numbers again? You had 11,287 for the upfront payment.
Yeah, down payment 11,287.23 with the first payment, annual payment of 23,730.15. So that would be 34,000, 35,000.
To be covered by the grant.
To be covered by the grant, and then all but 2,000, but we'd have radio repair money we could use to balance that. Every year after that, it would be 23,730.15.
For 4 years.
Can we put that in the capital budget?
It doesn't matter either way. It's an annual expense, so it'd be either the capital budget or the operating budget.
I'm just thinking, like we've done with a lot of the other equipment, of putting small amounts in every year to make sure that when things need to replace, we have that money in there, so.
So that was like a savings account approach where we're just actually paying the actual
Yeah.
full expense, which is an operating expense, so.
And then at the end of year 5, it's gone.
Right.
But I mean, I think what Heather's saying is we should.
Thinking about adding to the capital budget a savings account plan for the future for this equipment. So when we aren't, once this is paid off, we have money set aside in the capital budget to take care of these things.
Yeah, like we do with the HVAC system. We
Yeah.
put money in there. We have been planning on doing this. We were expecting to start this next year or the year after, as we were getting closer to 20 years. Early on, there were too many other projects,
Right.
and we needed to place this, and this just snuck up on us last year.
So, Chief, can you talk a little bit about the information from the state dispatching that was included in the packet? It sounded a little bit like they didn't want to continue doing part-time dispatching for us. Am I interpreting that incorrectly, or is?
Yeah, the state has been trying to get out of the dispatch business for quite a while. The legislature in this past session created a committee that was supposed to look into it and develop these regional dispatch centers around the state, for which time you could select which regional dispatch center you wanted to get into, then negotiate a fee for that. Again, that's another expense that we don't have because we have no idea. The first meeting for that committee is tomorrow. A few weeks ago, I got a letter from the state that says immediate action. Require all jurisdictions to take non-emergency administrative calls, et cetera, et cetera. We're not answering your phone unless it's a 911 call. We've experienced on Sundays when we don't have dispatch, they're getting calls. People are calling our police number and the fire number. They're routing the calls back to the police station. There's nobody there to answer because they're on the road. There's nobody sitting in there to answer the phone. We don't know how many calls we've missed, and we don't know how long this has been going on. On the overnight shift, it's not as bad because we don't get that many non-emergency calls, usually stuff like noisy parties, stuff that needs an immediate response. So they've been able to at least handle those calls and dispatch. They no longer enter stuff in our record system, so the officers have to manually enter everything, even though we're on the same record system. So this is another thing that came as a surprise. This letter came out of the blue. especially when they sent another letter before that that says this committee's going to be getting going July 27th. We'll have this whole system and architecture up and running next year sometime. So it's another thing that left us, now what do we do? How do we answer the phone? We've got nobody to answer the phone. We're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. We have no idea what getting into a private dispatch arrangement is going to be. In other words, if the Rutland Sheriff created a dispatch center, we're going to have to pay a fee every year. And I'm going to guess that's somewhere between 25 and 50,000 a year for them to answer our calls.
For our calls off hours, those
Off
whatever,
hours.
40 hours a week.
72 hours a week, all day Sunday.
Yeah.
And as you know, in the wintertime, we get winter towing that we do.
Sure.
And we get a lot of calls at all hours of the day
Oh, yeah.
and night because people want to get their cars back. And as you know, North Pleasant Street, we got the parties there. We'll be getting calls again. At,
Oh, we know.
yeah, 1, 2 in the morning. I've got to have somebody answer those calls.
So is there an opportunity here for Middlebury to become a regional dispatch place? We have professionals, obviously, who do this most of the hours of the week.
We do. This would require a big change in the police building. We'd have to. The building was never designed to be a regional dispatch center to take calls for other agencies, and we were never set up to do that. It would require hiring at least 3 more full-time dispatchers. It requires some changes to the building to be able to accommodate a separate division within dispatch to be able to do that. I looked at that and I thought this would be just too much for us to do.
Okay.
It just it wouldn't make any sense for us to do.
The physical plant's not well designed for the needs.
It was never intended to be that way. I do have a kind of a handshake arrangement with Bristol and the Virgins Police Department that we could potentially handle their calls at the same time that we have dispatch for a small fee. The intent was have the small fee come in and it pays for all this stuff that we're buying now. It would go into a fund and revolve around that. They seemed very amenable to that, but we got to wait to see what happens with this whole new dispatch thing. Disappointed in what the governor did on this, kind of said, yeah, we put this $11 million out there for you guys to figure it out, and then turned his back and walked away, and then this happens. We get the phones hung up on us. So we're in a bit of a pickle right now as to what we're going to do. They've suggested that we have a voicemail tree. So anybody would call with the dial 1 to get this one, dial 2. If you call the state police right now, that's what you're going to get is a voicemail tree. If you call the state police number and not the 911 number, you're going to get a voicemail tree, and it'll take you to number 8 before you get a dispatch. For reports, dial 2. For this something, dial 3. You got to go through the phone tree to the end. So it's a bit of a pickle we're in. Right now, my only option is one of the officers have to pull him off the road and leave. And when he has to go on a call, then he's got to leave the phones.
Yeah.
There's really no other way to do this. Yeah, it's a pickle. We're looking at different options. This hit us again. The letter's dated June 8th. I got it 2 weeks ago. So
Is there a possibility, because this is an emergency situation, can these calls be routed to the officer from the police department? If somebody calls in the middle of the night and officers on the road, can that be routed to the officer?
we thought about that, and then we figured if an officer's standing there at a car accident,
I know that, yeah.
It's a domestic.
Yeah.
He's doing something, and now a cell phone call is coming in, and he's got it. It doesn't work. It's just not practical to do that. The thing is we would just have to have them come in the office and wait till they get a call. One guy can go out, one officer can go out, the other one's got to stay by the phones. So, it's going to be a little wonky for about a year until we figure out what's going on with dispatch, till we figure out what it's actually going to cost us to have somebody answer those calls. If you read the memo from VLCT that talked about this, Sherling had told them, well, it's going to save the state $35 million a year. But we're paying for that.
No, of course.
It's going to increase our costs exponentially.
What do we pay for VSP dispatch during those 72 hours?
None.
Zero.
There is no fee. We've never paid a fee.
I see.
Thumbnail history. In 1970, our phone calls at Middlebury Police went to the town clerk. After 4 o'clock, it was a red phone system. One went to the Middlebury Inn, the other one went to the funeral home.
That's how we were dispatched.
Nice.
There was arrangements for like that all over the state.
Sure.
The state came in and said, we're going to develop a dispatch system for the state, and we will provide dispatching at no cost to local taxpayers. And they did that for 50 years.
Mhm.
They made a number of changes over the years that didn't work out for them.
Yeah. No, the costs go like this, and eventually they want to get out of the business.
They
Yeah.
used to have dispatch in every station. So you always had 5 dispatchers, 24 hours a day down here. And they were never overworked. They thought it would save money if they reduced them to 2.
Of course.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So it's a mess right now, and we'll figure something out.
So,
Are phone calls being covered now consistently?
No.
They're not. Not on the weekends.
Not, we switch the phones over at 11 o'clock at night. It goes to Westminster. We don't know they're switching a call back. We only learned of this because one of the officers was in the office, and we have a direct line between us and Westminster for transfers and things. And the transfer phone rang, and he thought it was the dispatcher looking for him for something. And it was somebody else calling the police for something. And he was able to deal with that. That's when we found out they're just bouncing the calls back to us. They're not taking them. Emergencies, they'll handle. They'll answer an emergency call, medical call, or
911.
911 call. If it's just somebody looking, I need to talk to an officer because of this, or they're not handling those calls. We don't know how many we've missed.
so I'll make a motion to award a contract to Bearcom for a 5-year lease per the Chief Hanley's recommendation.
Is that what was Bearcom? I got confused.
Yeah, Bearcom replaces the whole system.
So this is a change from the agenda.
It changed from the agenda, yeah.
Got confused. Okay, yep.
I
think
we need a second, obviously. I'll second that.
You don't need the amount? in the motion?
Sorry. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly, it was initial payment of around 11,000 and a lease payment of around 23,000 a year. So Beth will fill in the specifics in the minutes for me.
I have the numbers.
Yeah.
I will second that. Since motions need seconds. I'm curious in this environment, if we want to buy something that we have to pay for over 5 years right now, with the state looking in the next 12 months at having a different regional dispatch system in place. I just, the timing of it, it seems like not the time for big changes in platforms.
I agree. We're always going to keep our office open from 7 to 11 because of the amount of walk-in traffic we get, the amount of service calls we get, people walking into the building. We would lose that if we locked the doors.
Right.
And the dispatch went somewhere else.
Right.
So those are pretty critical hours, especially in the evening. There's people coming. I don't know, somebody wanted to get a family member tested for alcohol or something the other day. They walk in for a million different reasons in that building.
Sure.
And if the building is closed, we lose that service, whether it's a DIN verification or whatever, walk-in complaints.
Yeah, dropping off a wallet. I've done it. Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely.
Yeah, we hold all kinds of stuff for people that can collect. Yeah.
Do we have reason to believe that this system will potentially still work with whatever they come up with in the future?
Yes,
Okay.
it's that Project 25 compliant
Okay.
digital. So that's what we specified. Nobody will give you a grant for anything different.
Okay.
And this is all Motorola equipment. So it's all top shelf.
Yeah, that's what you said at the beginning. I didn't understand what that meant.
I mean, I think my interpretation is that you still want to have this capability in your office from 7 to 11,
Definitely.
regardless of what the regional dispatch would be.
Yes.
And if we went 24/7 with regional dispatch, it's going to be that much more expensive than if we do at least some of it ourselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't think that there's any.
This is, you need to upgrade your system anyways.
Yeah.
You lose service when you go to a regional center.
Yeah.
Period.
That's a
Yeah.
different,
I mean, it's just the way it is. They're not going to handle stuff like what time are the fireworks or what time is the festival on the green tonight.
Do people call for that?
Yeah, we call. Yeah, we get calls from people. What are the road conditions in Middlebury? We get all kinds of stuff.
But it's a service. People call us more for service than for complaints. And that's why it's important that we keep that dispatch open to handle those.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial to cost out the equipment over 5 years with a lease and get all new equipment in there for chief. And I don't see any downside, even with a regional proposal upcoming, to purchasing this equipment. So
Oh, that was my only concern. So Esther, did you have anything before we vote?
No, but I guess I guess I do have something to say. I want to echo, I appreciated Andy's question about with the state maybe doing something different, us investing so much right now. But it's a need, and so I support it.
All right, with that, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
thanks for all the time and effort on that, chief.
All right, next we have acceptance of Main Street and Merchants Row bridges and associated infrastructure improvements as part of the Vermont Agency of Transportation closeout of the Downtown Bridge Replacement Project. Was this the last stamp?
This is the last stamp. Received a note from Community Liaison Jim Gish, noting that in his opinion, it's fine to sign the final acceptance. Our final inspection took place last year. He's just letting us know that there are still some activity as Phil Harrington and he tidy up the loose ends on the project, just little pieces here and there.
Okay.
And Bill Kernan, who has been involved in the final inspection and the wrap up of the project as well, concurs with that.
All right. Did someone want to make a motion?
I'll move to authorize Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey to sign the notice of project acceptance letter from Agency of Transportation for Downtown Bridge and Rail Project.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. And next we have the town manager's recommendation for Public Works Planning Director position.
I sent you this afternoon my recommendation for Emily Sherrington to serve as the town's next Director of Public Works Planning. Emily comes with a wealth of experience in construction administration, resident inspection. She has a degree in engineering, a degree in graphic design, and has done extensive work on stormwater planning. Miss anything? Heather, as chair of the infrastructure committee, and Brian, as chair of the select board, met with Emily to give an introduction, and that's all I have.
Is she local?
St. Albans.
It's from Moncton.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, she lives in there, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So for this position, did we have multiple applications or just this one?
Yes, we did. We were very fortunate to have some well-qualified candidates.
Fantastic.
And what is the policy? So you interviewed the candidate yourself?
Mhm.
There's nobody else, right?
Dan also interviewed her.
Great.
Oh, okay.
And then Heather and Brian.
Yeah,
With her.
we just met with her.
They just, yeah, they know.
You know.
interview.
From your recommendation, she seemed like qualified, yeah.
Okay. Would anyone care to make a motion?
Can I make the motion?
Yeah, you can.
I move to accept Town Manager Kathleen Ramsey's hiring recommendation for the Public Works Planning Director position as presented.
Second.
Boy.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 And Kathleen, what will her overlap look like with Dan for getting up to speed?
She is slated to begin September 12th,
Mhm.
and Dan is retiring at the end of December. He can tell you the exact date, and it keeps like moving up a little bit.
Almost,
And we're-
almost 4
We're
months.
also trying to encourage him to consider a Beth Dow retirement where,
Oh, good. A nice
Where he
slow
stays
retirement.
on the job.
where he might be willing to offer 5 hours a week.
See, he could be the treasurer. That's good.
Perfect.
I support that only if we literally call it the Beth Dow retirement plan. Okay, next we have check warrants. Esther, did you want to take them or did you want me to do them? I do have the paper.
Kathleen sent it to me, okay, but thank you. All right, I move to approve total expenditures in the amount of $437,239.35, consisting of $312,587.53 for accounts payable and $124,651.82 for payroll for the period July 13th, 2022 through July 26th, 2022.
Second. Oh,
You can have.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Spare bills.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, and now we have board member concerns. Why don't we start over here, Andy?
I decided to take a quick peek at our grand list value for Mr. Anders Holmes' property, since he was claiming a $5 million loss if things didn't go his way.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it's appraised at under $500,000. So maybe we should, sorry, 590. So maybe we should look at that and bring it up to where the market should be. Talking to people affected by the construction in my neighborhood, asking and just making sure that the communication is good, expectations were set well. Everything seems to be very good with the folks I've talked to. It's very nice to hear, almost entirely positive from folks whose lives are upended by water system work.
Not as much as it would be if they can't flush the toilet, so.
Indeed. Yeah, well,
Or they have no water because there's a
Right.
break.
sure. At the corner of, is that Colonial? They've had a diesel running 24/7 to do pumping there while they've been replacing things. And that is, I'm thankful that it's not right outside my bedroom window, and really appreciate and am compassionate for folks who have to deal with that to help keep our infrastructure going. I would really like to think about the absentee landlord problem in more detail, and I don't know when we get back to that. My neighbor who was here at our last meeting is clearly quite concerned, but I think the bigger property is definitely the North Pleasant. And
I think that would be something good to talk in a public health and safety meeting. Put that on the agenda.
I think that's a great idea.
Thought about that.
Yeah, and I'm just, as I've mentioned, right, these are adults. The college has a piece to play on the academic side of things regarding their campus and policies, but a lot of this has to fall on the municipality and how we deal with folks who are creating a nuisance.
But I also believe that it affects their reputation. If the college kids are going to spoil the name the way they're doing it, it's not good for the college. I know they're adults, but.
I mean, they're also college kids. Find a college town which doesn't have, we benefit greatly because they had the foresight to get rid of fraternities those decades ago, but find a college town that doesn't have difficulties with college kids interacting with established
But
neighborhoods.
Middlebury College is known for being a good college and good students, which is getting bad now.
And I think,
Last couple of years
I
especially.
think part of that again, last couple of years,
Yep.
COVID, unable to use normal socializing schemes, as well as the large number of students that came in the second year of COVID because of delays, plus admissions and all that, and needing housing.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Right.
we'll bring it up in public health.
Thank you, Andy. Esther, did you have anything? All right, thank you. Heather?
Apparently the other morning there was a truck that got stuck out here because there was a delivery truck parked in the circle, and a big truck got stuck and traffic was backed up. So just reminder again, I should have said something when Chief was here. I don't know what we can really do about it, but maybe we need some no parking in the middle of there. I know they're trying to deliver to Two Brothers, and Two Brothers doesn't have a lot of street front on which to do that. Anyway.
No street, well, they have a circle.
Yeah, their street front is the circle.
And I do want to say thank you to the residents of Colonial Drive, Washington Street Extension, Washington Street. I know construction is painful, but I do hope when it's done, it does have a benefit. You know, we are less breaks, especially on Washington Street, less water outages. I know it's painful, but I do appreciate their patience and understanding while we go through all that work. So,
thank you. Dan?
I have concerns, but I'm not going to say anything.
You sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
Okay. Farhad?
I have no concerns, but I want to welcome Emily, and I want to re-welcome Beth Dow. Because she's already been here.
We got one more vote on it.
So, yeah, I hope they're here, and I hope they're lucky.
I guess my only comment is that I found it very striking to see a group of a diverse group of young people come into a select board meeting, because, you know, having sat here for the past 5 years, that doesn't happen very often. So, and they did come very prepared. So I appreciate that. And it, you know, from people I talk to, I work with people who are in their 20s. This can be a difficult place to be young and single. And, you know, I think for our town to grow, we need to be able to encourage a diverse population and diverse ages of residents. So, yeah, I just appreciated that they took the time to come in, regardless of what it was about. That was the only thing I had.
yeah, but it's good, you know, it's good that we have people coming here regardless of what it's about, right?
Absolutely.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying.
You know,
It's great that Laura mentioned, right,
Yeah.
the importance of us being open to things, just
Right.
on a random Tuesday.
Right.
I mean, we obviously want to go home as soon as we can when we're here, but I think we should do everything we can to let people know that they can come here and speak to us, no matter who they are, no matter what the subject is.
So now we have need for executive session.
Especially when they're picking on Dan.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I can't. Would somebody like to take us into executive session?
Sure.
Dan?
No. Oh, yes. Let's go into executive session.
In accordance with Vermont's open meeting law requirements, I move that the board finds that premature general knowledge of the consideration of real estate matters and contracts would clearly place the select board at a substantial disadvantage, because the select board risks disclosing its litigation strategy if it discusses the real estate matters and contracts in public.
Second, sorry.
That's okay. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I further move that the board enters into executive session to discuss real estate matters and contracts under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and with that, we will enter executive session at 8:39.
8:40.
8:40. Our odds.